Hey, what's up YouTube? Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the new HTC One M8 to the Samsung Galaxy S5. So the HTC M8 has just been officially announced today, but there's been so many leaks over the past few months, probably the most leaked phone of this year so far. But it has now officially been announced, so we've got the official specs as well as the official features, and it's going to be competing directly with the Samsung Galaxy S5, which is the flagship from Samsung. But how do these two compare? What's different? Well, do hit that thumbs up button and let's find out in this head-to-head spec comparison. So starting off with the size, there's a bit of a difference in terms of the sizes. The HTC One M8 is roughly about 4.4 millimeters taller than the Samsung Galaxy S5. In terms of width, it's actually about 1.9 millimeters small in terms of the width, and it's roughly about 1.3 millimeters thicker compared to the Samsung Galaxy S5. So you've got a bit of a difference here in terms of the size. And that slightly comes down to the screen size. The S5 does have a larger screen, which is why it's wider. The HTC One M8 has a 5-inch screen, so a slightly smaller screen. Now the length is taller, and that's because of the speakers, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. Now the resolution, you've got a full 1080p HD on both of these, 1920 by 1080. You've got a slight difference in terms of pixel density because of the slight difference in screen size. You've got 441 roughly on the M8. On the Samsung Galaxy S5, you've got roughly about 432 ppi. Very minor difference in terms of pixel density. The fact that they've both got full HD 1920 by 1080 is great. I don't think you're going to be noticing much of a difference in terms of the screens. Now there's also a difference in weight, and that's about 15 grams. The Samsung Galaxy S5 is coming in lighter, 15 grams lighter compared to the HTC One M8, and that is down to the build. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a plastic build, so it's a perforated back, dotted dimple texture, similar to the Google Nexus 7 that we saw in 2012, and it's also IP67 water and dust resistant. Now the HTC One M8, although it comes in heavier, it is using more premium materials. You've got an aluminium unibody design, or aluminum unibody design, depending on where you're from and how you want to pronounce it. And it definitely has a very premium look and feel. 90% metal that they've got on here, and they've been really looking at the antenna technology to allow that much metal on the device. So in terms of premium look and feel, no doubt the HTC One M8 gets the advantage here, but the Samsung Galaxy S5 does get the advantage of IP67 water and dust resistance. Now going on to the internals, both of these have a Snapdragon 801 processor, the same GPU as well, Adreno 330, but you've got slightly different clock speeds in the processors. You've got a 2.3 GHz processor on the HTC One M8. On the Samsung Galaxy S5, you've got a 2.5 GHz processor. So a very slight difference here. In terms of performance, we are going to have to put these side by side and do some benchmarks. The Samsung Galaxy S5 is also going to be available in an octa-core version, but there's not a huge deal of detail about that as yet. In terms of RAM, both of these have 2 GB of RAM. Great for multitasking, and they've not really upped the RAM on both of these devices compared to their predecessors, but 2 GB is more than enough. Now the different storage options, you've got 16 and 32 on both sides, and both of these have expandable storage as well, micro SD up to 128 GB. So the HTC One, the original, the M7, did not have expandable storage, but HTC have taken that on board and provided 128 GB expansion via micro SD. Now that's absolutely great on both of these devices. You're not stuck with the gigabyte storage that you initially get. You can expand that storage, so a big advantage here on both devices. Now going on to the cameras, there's some big differences in terms of the cameras on both of these devices. Starting with the Samsung Galaxy S5, you've got a 16 megapixel rear-facing camera, so very high in resolution. Now comparing that to the HTC One M8, it's got a 4 ultra pixel camera, so although it's got less pixels, so the resolution is smaller, the pixels are larger, so low light performance is going to be better compared to the Samsung Galaxy S5. Something on Samsung's side, low light performance hasn't been too great. You can use night mode and things, which uses a slower shutter speed, but generally speaking, just low light images haven't been too great on the Samsung Galaxy S5. The HTC One M8, they're taking that over from the HTC One, where they've got larger pixels which let in more light. Now the interesting thing on the HTC One M8 is the dual camera, so that's 2 cameras on the back. The additional camera measures depth data, and it's going to let you refocus later on, so you can touch to refocus at later points. So now this is a very nice technology. Samsung offers something similar, which is selective focus, but this takes a few shots altogether and then lets you refocus. But the HTC M8 has this on the hardware side, so a big advantage here on the HTC M8. The HTC One M8 also has a dual LED flash. Now this is similar to the iPhone 5s, one amber and one white, and these fire off in different combinations to give you better skin tones, so that's another advantage here on the HTC One M8. And both of these have very fast autofocus, 300 milliseconds roughly on both of these, so very fast autofocus on both of the cameras. Again, we'll have to put these side by side to test them out properly. The Samsung Galaxy S5 also has advanced HDR, so you can see real-time HDR as you're going to be taking the shot rather than it processing later on. Another advantage here for the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now this is going to be very interesting. We've got resolution here versus the ultra pixels on the dual camera, so we're going to have to see these side by side. In terms of video, you've got 4K video on the Samsung Galaxy S5, so that's 2160p. That's absolutely great to see on a smartphone. 1080p at 60 frames a second as well. The HTC One M8 only has 1080p. Now I'm saying only 1080p like it's something small. Full HD is still great, but you don't have that push to 4K. Now considering that we've not got that many devices at 4K right now anyway, it's not a huge deal in my opinion, but having 4K is definitely an advantage, especially if you want to crop into your shots later on. So the advantage of resolution definitely goes to the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now in terms of the front-facing cameras, the Samsung Galaxy S5, they've stuck to a 2 megapixel front-facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD, so that's similar to the S4. They've not really got much of an improvement here. The HTC One M8, they've gone for a 5 megapixel front-facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD as well, but 5 megapixels versus 2 megapixels, the resolution in terms of the front-facing camera really goes to the HTC One M8. They've really taken on board the selfie craze that's happened in 2013, and they've incorporated a high resolution front-facing camera, which is great to see. Now both of these devices also have their advantages and disadvantages in certain areas. The Samsung Galaxy S5 comes with USB 3 compared to USB 2 on the HTC One M8, so you can get faster data transfer speeds from your computer as well as faster charging from your computer on the Samsung Galaxy S5. On the HTC One M8 you've still got USB 2. Now the Samsung Galaxy S5 also comes with a bunch of new features. Just to mention a few, you've got Wi-Fi MIMO technology, so that's super fast Wi-Fi download speeds on the Samsung Galaxy S5. And you've also got a heart rate sensor at the back of the device, so by placing your finger just below the camera, you're going to be able to measure your pulse rate, and that's going to be integrated with lots of health apps as well. So if you are somebody that's into your health, that's an advantage here on the Samsung Galaxy S5. You've also got a fingerprint scanner on the home button, so you can swipe to either unlock the device or also make purchases. Samsung have partnered with PayPal, so you can make purchases on eBay and things just by swiping your finger to authorize payments. Now the HTC One M8 comes with the HTC Boom Sound, that's the dual frontal stereo speakers with the built-in amplifiers. Now when it comes to speakers on a smartphone, HTC definitely setting the benchmark really high, and some of the best sound that you're going to be getting on any smartphone will be on the HTC devices. The HTC M8 improves on the HTC M7, and you've got 25% louder sound with more depth, so that's a big advantage here on the HTC One M8. In terms of other features, you've also got gesture controls. So for instance, you can have the device in landscape mode, and if you hold down the volume button, then it's going to activate the camera. And if you've got the device in portrait mode and you tap the device twice, and that's going to activate the screen. So you've got a few of these gesture-based controls as well on the HTC One M8, which they're calling the HTC 6th Sense. Now moving on to the operating systems, both of these are running Android KitKat 4.4.2, so the latest version of Android, but you've got your skins. So the HTC One M8 comes with the HTC Sense UI 6, so that's got the latest version on here. The Samsung Galaxy S5 comes with the TouchWiz UI, Samsung's TouchWiz UI. Now this is going to come down to personal preference. Both of these have their own features and advantages, but it is going to come down to personal preference here. Now moving on to the batteries, the Samsung Galaxy S5 comes with a 2800 mAh battery, which is removable. The HTC One M8 comes with a 2600 mAh battery, which is not removable. So you've got an advantage here on the Samsung Galaxy S5 of a larger unremovable battery, so you can carry around a spare and replace the battery altogether if you want as well. Both of these are boasting improvements on their predecessors, so Samsung is saying the S5 has 20% more battery life compared to the Samsung Galaxy S4. HTC One M8, they're saying that it's got 40% more battery life compared to the HTC One M7. Now these we'll have to see side by side in terms of performance. Both of these offer some power saving modes as well. You've got ultra power saving mode on the Samsung Galaxy S5 and you've got extreme power saving mode on the HTC One M8. So the power saving modes are really going to help you get that much more out of your battery when you need it most. Now moving on to the prices and release dates. The Samsung Galaxy S5 is due for release on the 11th of April. The HTC One M8 is available now, so HTC have actually made it available on launch date, so you can go out and get it on contract. In terms of the off-contract prices, there's no details available as yet, but you'll be looking at similar off-contract prices, £600 here in the UK roughly, or between $700 to $750 in the US. Now these are standard flagship prices, so you're going to be looking at very similar prices between these two. So those were the key differences between the HTC One M8 and the Samsung Galaxy S5. Both of these are the flagships, both have their advantages and disadvantages. If premium build quality is your thing, then no doubt the HTC One M8 is going to be the option for you, and you are going to be compelled to go for that option because of that amazing build quality that they've gone for. The Samsung Galaxy S5, however, does offer some other features. You've got 4K video recording, you've got the fingerprint scan as well as the heart rate monitor, so they have built in some of these features. So it is going to come down to personal preference. Which one do you prefer? Which one will you be going for? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time. If you want to see more regular videos like this one, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, which will be below. If you're on a mobile device, it may be somewhere else. If you want to see my previous related video, then hit the link right here. If you want to stay in touch over Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, then all of the addresses will be there somewhere, as well as direct links in the description below. Okay, if you're still watching, then that means you've not done one of those things, so, you know, yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna go downstairs. See. Okay, there isn't really a downstairs. Anyway, so yeah.